Jesteśmy po przerwie, drodzy uczniowie. Przed nami lekcja języka angielskiego, kolejna lekcja języka angielskiego. Mam nadzieję, że tym razem bez problemów technicznych. Rozpoczniemy. Witamy pana profesora Doksę.
Dzień dobry. Na dzisiejszej lekcji będziemy rozmawiać o problemach w szkole.
Mamy nadzieję, że macie ich jak najmniej.
Hello, students. So, as I said before, today we are going to talk about school problems. Well, I believe most of you go to school. Maybe right now the school is taking place online. It's like virtual studying, but still it's good to talk about some problems that happen at school. So there are, of course, a lot of problems that students can complain about. Sometimes they are bigger, sometimes they are smaller, sometimes they are really serious, but let's just talk about them. So first of all, we have unfair treatment. What does it mean? Well, unfair, czyli niesprawiedliwe, treatment, traktowanie. So, for example, sometimes students complain that the teachers treat them unfairly. So, for example, they prefer the boys, or some teachers prefer the girls, or some teachers prefer this student or that student, yes. Very often students feel that they are unfairly treated. And they are unfairly treated by whom? Well, usually by biased teachers. What is biased? Well, biased teachers are teachers, or generally biased people also are people or teachers for this matter, who are not objective. So teachers who already have an opinion, a preference. Po polsku nieobiektywni. So they are biased. So as I said, they sometimes prefer such students or this particular one or that particular one. So they are biased, yes. Sometimes the problem is unfair marking. What is marking? Well, you know, when you go to school, you get marks or grades or notes, czyli oceny. So unfair marking is when you get marks or grades or notes and you think they're not fair. You usually think you should get better marks or you should have got a better mark. Yes? Czyli unfair marking to jest nieuczciwe ocenianie. So students are marked unfairly or teachers mark students unfairly. Some students feel so. Another word for marking or similar word is to be assessed. To be assessed, it means być ocenianym, to be marked. Sometimes usually you are assessed with marks or grades, czyli przy pomocy ocen. Sometimes you are assessed by using some opinion, yes? So sometimes students feel that they are assessed unfairly, czyli oceniani są nieuczciwie, niesprawiedliwie, może tak. Another problem is the problem of curriculum. What is school curriculum? Well, school curriculum basically is this material, the study work or the coursework that you have to learn, that you are supposed to learn, czyli po polsku program nauczania. And I think the biggest problem with curriculum is that it is overloaded, czyli przeładowany. So students feel there is simply too many things, too much knowledge, too many facts to learn, especially to learn by heart. They have a lot of lessons. So they feel that the curriculum is overloaded, czyli przeładowane. And because of the overloaded curriculum, students are overwhelmed with schoolwork. I am overwhelmed with my schoolwork, czyli przytłoczony materiałem, przytłoczony szkołą. Also, another problem is that because you have such overloaded curriculum, very often you are also given a lot of homework. So, on top of all this time spent at school, you go home and then in the afternoon, of course, you have to do homework. And sometimes students feel they spend too much time during homework or studying at home for a test or for the next lesson. So they feel they have no free time or too little free time because in the morning or afternoon there is school and in the evening there is homework and home study. Now, another problem is, as I said before, that a lot of the knowledge that students have to gain or acquire, czyli nabyć, they have to memorize. Or in other words, they have to learn by heart. Memorize, learn by heart, nauczyć się na pamięć. So you have to memorize facts, names, dates, events, formulas, and so on, words. So sometimes students feel that everything that they learn, they have to learn by heart, or they have to memorize. They just have to remember. Nowadays, because we have such easy and quick access to the facts online, on the internet, students feel that memorizing is not that necessary. All right, another school problems. Because we have so much knowledge to memorize, sometimes students feel that there are too few problem-solving tasks. What's a problem-solving task? Well, it's a task, zadanie, in which you don't really have to memorize anything, but you have a problem that you have to solve using the knowledge that you have or using the knowledge that you can access. Yes, for example, online. So sometimes students feel that there are too few such tasks, czyli zbyt mało zadań polegających na rozwiązywaniu problemów. Too little project work. So sometimes you don't have to learn anything by heart. You just have some kind of subject and you have to prepare a project on that subject using all the available knowledge, the knowledge that you have, the skills that you have, but also the knowledge that you can get from different sources, books or from people or from online sources. Now, another problem that sometimes bothers some students is lack of optional classes. What are optional classes? Well, optional classes are classes or lessons or subjects that you choose by yourself, choose on your own. And very often you don't have to go there, you just choose it because you want and you go there because you want. Czyli zajęcia nieobowiązkowe lub też zajęcia do wyboru. Especially in Polish system, when you are at school, actually all or most of your classes are obligatory, czyli obowiązkowe. So you just have to attend them. You have to go to these classes. You don't really have much choice. And for some students, this could be bothering. Of course, you have a choice at the beginning of the school when you choose the so-called profile or the major in English of your class. But during the school time, you don't really choose classes. Also, there is too much focus on all the subjects. This is what the students feel. They say that every teacher thinks that his or her subject is the most important. So every teacher really demands a lot of studying and knowledge from us. So we feel we have to learn everything, and we are not really interested in everything. So this is what students complain about. So this is what they feel, that they cannot really focus on their favorite subjects or their strong subjects, but they have to focus on all the subjects. Well, that's the reality. Another school problem are the classes themselves. Well, sometimes the classes are boring or monotonous or repetitive. Boring, you know, monotonous, monotonne, repetitive, powtarzalne. Of course, not all classes are like that, but some are. So it's not really easy to prepare a fascinating and different and exciting class. It takes time and preparation, but it's possible. Another school problem is, and I personally also find it very hard, is sitting in class all the time. You know, in this traditional system that we have, well, what is the classroom arrangement? Well, usually the students come in, take their seats, and spend 45 minutes sitting in one place without really possibility of moving, you know, getting up, doing something physically. Okay, 45 minutes, well, you can stand this. But if it's 45 minutes and you have, for example, 8 such lessons in a day, it really becomes a little bit hard. So sitting in class all the time can also be a problem. Now, another types of school problems. Poor school facilities or poor equipment. Tutaj słówko poor nie oznacza biedny, tylko oznacza słaby. This problem is actually getting, or this issue is getting better. So also in Poland, more and more schools are better equipped, especially in big cities. There are good facilities, czyli wyposażenie. There is, you know, internet access. There are digital whiteboards. There are computers. There are overhead projectors. So really, a lot of schools nowadays are getting better and better in this respect. So we have better facilities, better equipment. You know, even now with the online schooling, we have good online facilities or good online applications to run the online classes. So this is a problem that still exists in some schools, but it's getting better. Now, another problem is poor teachers, poor teaching skills. Znowu, poor tutaj nie oznacza zły, tylko słaby. Well, remember, teachers are, well, workers. Yes, it's a job for them. Like in every job, you will have better workers and not such good workers. Yes, some are better, some are worse. It's the same with teachers. There are better teachers, there are worse teachers. Sometimes students prefer this kind of teacher, others prefer that kind of teacher. But what does it mean, poor teacher? Well, usually poor teacher is a teacher with poor teaching skills. So teacher who cannot teach very well. Yes, well, it happens sometimes, like in every profession. Another school problem is bullying. Well, this is actually a social problem. What is bullying? I guess you know what it is. Prześladowanie, gnębienie. So some students at school can be bullied. There isn't really any rule about it who can be bullied, but it's usually students who are younger or weaker physically, smaller, or I don't know, who are different, or students who, well, just have bad luck, yes, and they are bullied. Usually they are bullied by other students. Well, sometimes they can also be bullied by some teachers. When there is bullying, there can also be violence. It could be some kind of psychological violence, so, you know, mental bullying. But it can also, in some schools, well, it happens, the students just fight. So there can be physical violence, or a very common nowadays, cyberbullying, cyber violence, violence in the net, online bullying, online violence. It's, I would say, the plague of our times. Another problem, social problem, for some students, can be unpleasant relations in class between students. Again, there isn't really a rule for this. There are some classes in which there is an excellent atmosphere, Like everybody likes everybody. They get on well together, and it's really nice to be there. But there are some classes in which the relations between students are not very good. They don't like each other. They can't get on well with each other. So then going to such class in school is not really a pleasant experience. Well, another problem that can have the source in school are addictions, czyli uzależnienia. Because in school you have a group of students, the students who are more or less your age, we call them peers, rówieśnicy. And very often these peers or these young people, they get into groups. And in the group they feel they are stronger. And they try to put pressure, czyli wywierać presję, to put pressure on other students. So there is peer pressure. To jest presja rówieśników, presja otoczenia. And sometimes this peer pressure can result in some addictions. For example, addiction to alcohol. Yes, there is a group of students who say, oh, okay, we are so cool, we drink alcohol, you have to drink with us. Peer pressure, this can lead to addictions. Alcohol, smoking, drugs, computer games, things like that. Now, another school problem can be bad atmosphere. I think we have already mentioned this. Bad atmosphere can be caused by many, many factors. So relations between students, relations between teachers and students, between teachers, and so on and so on. Like in every place where you have many people, you can have good atmosphere, bad atmosphere, or just mixed atmosphere. Sometimes, especially in very good schools, I mean schools where the level of teaching and the level of students' performance is very high. So students are really, really very good students. They get good marks. They're very competitive. Sometimes there is too much competition. Everybody wants to be the best. Everybody wants to have the best grades. Everybody wants to go to the best university, study the best subjects or courses, university courses, and there is too much competition between students, which sometimes can result in some problems, mental problems, nervous breakdown, and so on and so on. Sometimes the problem for some students is the bad school schedule. You know what school schedule is the time when you go to school, how many subjects you have when you finish. So for some students, sometimes the schedule is not very good. So for example, they start lessons too early, or they start lessons too late, or they finish lessons too late, or they have too many hours one day, and so on and so on. This is usually not a very serious problem, but it can be, especially if you live far away from school and you have to commute, czyli dojeżdżać. So a bad school schedule also means inconvenient hours. Inconvenient, czyli niedogodne, niedogodne godziny. You know, I know there are schools in which, for example, they start lessons at 7, yes, or 7:30. That's a bit early for some students, especially if you come, you know, by bus for, I don't know, 45 minutes or 1 hour. Also, another school problem can be bad choice of subjects. What does it mean? Well, you know, in Polish schools, when you apply to get to some school, you have to choose, well, in English it's called the major, czyli jakby profil, główne przedmioty. You choose the major or the profile of the class. And, of course, the subjects that you have and how many of these subjects you have will depend on what major you choose. And sometimes you can make a bad choice, yes? Or the subjects that you have at school are not really the ones that you're interested in. Or you have to, you know, study because they are at the exam. You know, for example, in Polish you have to take maths, English, and Polish at your final exam, high school final exam. But not everybody is that interested in maths, or not everybody is so excellent in Polish. So you know, for some people this is a bad choice of subject. Okay, and the final list of school problems. Sometimes school is not conveniently located, so it is too far. Conveniently located, czyli dogodnie położona. You know, for example, in big city like Warsaw, if your school is at the other side of town, it's a problem because it's hard to get there. Or if you live in the country far away from a big city, you have to commute, dojeżdżać for a long time, or you have to just live at the boarding house, czyli w internacie. And as I said, if the school is not conveniently located, czyli nie jest dogodnie położona, you can have problems with commuting, czyli problemy z dojazdem. Commute, dojeżdżać do szkoły, do pracy. Sometimes people commute by train, by bus, by tram, by underground. It can be a problem if you live far away. Well, all the problems that we have discussed today can result in stress or anxiety. Anxiety, obawa, niepokój, or even school phobia, so panic, fear of school. And these things are becoming, unfortunately, more and more common at schools with students. Also, school does not take into consideration, czyli nie bierze pod uwagę, students' individual needs or preferences or abilities. Czyli indywidualnie bierze pod uwagę indywidualnych potrzeb lub preferencji lub zdolności. Yeah, so for example, all the students in the class, they basically have to learn the same things. Yes. If you look at the exams, for example, the final exams, all the students have to take the 3 obligatory exams. Yes, of course, then they can make a choice of some optional subjects, but still we don't take into consideration their needs, preferences, abilities as much as we could. All right, so maybe this wasn't the nicest subject in the world, but I think that all of you students are aware that problems at school happen. So I hope that this lesson will help you in the future to be able to talk or to write about this, and even if you have some school problems, to express this. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Dziękujemy waszym gościem w domach. Był pan profesor Maciej Doksa. Do zobaczenia następnym razem.
Do widzenia.